The sun, merciless as an executioner, unleashed its fiery gaze upon the land, turning the prairies into a scorching oven. Red-brown dust, like an evil spirit, swirled behind the wheels of the wagon, where two figures sat, bound hand and foot. Sheriff Callum, his face etched with wrinkles and time, was darker than a pre-storm sky, his jaw clenched tight. Beside him sat his captive, Sarah. Her eyes, the color of a storm cloud, flashed with lightning bolts of anger and fear, yet, deep within them, a hidden resilience lingered, like a diamond ready to endure any trial. She was beautiful, but her beauty was not soft, it was prickly, like the yucca stalks that grew in this endless desert, ready to pierce anyone who dared to touch her. The kidnapper, a cruel bandit named Reagan, rode ahead on his black stallion, an embodiment of evil. His black hair streamed in the wind, and his eyes, like those of a bird of prey, scanned the horizon for any hint of danger. Reagan didn't know that he had taken prisoner not just the sheriff's daughter, but a girl whose hands possessed a deadly art, of which he had no idea. He thought Sarah was just a card in his game, a means of blackmail, to wrest freedom for his gang from the clutches of the law. A few days ago, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in crimson hues and lengthening shadows draped the city in an ominous veil, Reagan and his thugs stormed into the sheriff's house. Shots, screams, and then, Sarah was in their grasp. Her father, helpless, bound hand and foot, watched with eyes brimming with despair as his only daughter was taken away. She slowly vanished into a cloud of dust, leaving behind only a sense of hopelessness. Now they were on the road, far from civilization, deep in the heart of the unforgiving wilderness. Every movement of the wagon sent agonizing waves of pain through Sarah's muscles, yet she remained silent, gritting her teeth until they ached. Rage choked her like a suffocating noose, but she knew succumbing to it now meant certain death. She had to wait, bide her time, for the opportune moment to escape this deadly trap. Sheriff Callum, bound and helpless, looked into his daughter's eyes and saw the burning fire, the thirst for vengeance. He knew that Sarah, trained in the Eastern martial arts, was a deadly threat to any enemy. His heart was breaking, consumed by unbearable guilt for her captivity, for his failure to protect her. Throughout the following days, dust, the scorching sun, and a heavy silence became their only companions. Reagan remained cold and harsh, his men silent and suspicious, like a pack of wolves stalking their prey. They stopped only to eat and rest briefly, as if driven by relentless demons. Sarah watched their every move, every glance, desperately seeking a weakness in their defenses, a vulnerability. One day, during a short break, when Reagan had gone to the horses to check on them, Sarah, seizing the opportune moment, tried to escape her bonds. She tugged at the ropes, rubbing them against the rough edges of the wagon, but the knots held fast. The sheriff, observing her from afar, whispered softly, "Don't rush, daughter. Time will come." His voice, raspy from a parched throat, held both understanding and pride. In that instant, amidst the swirling hatred and chilling fear, Sarah felt a wave of tenderness for her father. She knew he never desired such a fate for her. That night, as the moon transformed the prairie into a silver sea, the bandits made camp. The campfire crackled, scattering dancing shadows all around, like living tongues of flame. Reagan, slowly sipping whiskey from a small glass, watched Sarah and Callum. Contempt and hidden triumph flickered in his eyes. "Well, Sheriff," he sneered, exhaling a puff of smoke. "How much longer will you remain silent? Your daughter is a real beauty." It was a shame her beauty would soon fade if he didn't do as requested. Callum spat into the dust at his feet, his face a mask of undisguised hatred. Sarah, for her part, shot Reagan a look brimming with such disdain that he involuntarily frowned. At that very moment, seizing a second of carelessness from the guards, she began to set her plan in motion. At first, she tried to appear meek, like a frightened animal. She humbly accepted the food offered to her, obeying orders without question, but her eyes, like two sharp blades, relentlessly watched everything around, seeking out any sign of weakness. She noticed that one of the bandits, a hulk named Billy, felt a strange, unsettling attraction to her, bordering on animalistic fear. The following night, when Billy, as usual, was guarding their camp, she quietly spoke to him. Her voice was soft, like a whisper, laced with subtle hints of feminine charm. She told him of her fear of Reagan, of her dearest dream, to find freedom. Billy, stunned by the unexpected confession, began to doubt. "Why do you want this, girl?" he whispered, anxiously looking around. "He'll kill us all." "He won't, if you help," Sarah replied, her voice like the rustle of autumn leaves, lost in the night. "Help me, and you'll find freedom." These words echoed in Billy's head, soon becoming her secret ally. Risking his own life, he brought her meager food, water, trying to ease her difficult plight. It was he who helped her loosen the rough ropes that mercilessly bound her wrists and ankles. The next morning, when Reagan, the bandit leader, gave the order to move on, Sarah, like a predator, waited for the opportune moment. Taking advantage of the general chaos caused by the sudden storm, she struck. Her movements, honed by years of training, were swift, precise, and deadly. She attacked like a venomous snake, with a single, swift blow, like a scythe, sending one bandit after another into unconsciousness. Billy, shocked by Sarah's unexpected fury, but true to his word, rushed to her aid. Even Callum, bound in handcuffs, unwilling to be left out, desperately tried to break free, simultaneously assisting Sarah and Billy. The bandits, utterly stunned by the sudden attack, were demoralized, unable to offer any decent resistance. Soon, the entire wild brawl descended into utter chaos. Reagan, driven mad with rage, his face contorted and eyes burning, attempted to shoot Sarah. But Billy, as if sensing the danger, stepped forward and shielded her with his body, taking the bullet. Sarah, overwhelmed by grief and fury, lunged at Reagan, transforming into a whirlwind of pain and revenge. Her strikes, precise and merciless, rained down upon him, one after another. She didn't aim to kill, but she craved for him to feel all the pain he had inflicted upon her and her father. After several brutal blows, disarming him, she pressed the knife he had held against his throat, forcing him to surrender. Victory came at a heavy price. Billy perished, sacrificing his life. His death left an unhealing scar in the hearts of Sarah and Callum. But they were free. They had rid themselves of the bandits, of this nightmarish threat, and now they held hope for the future. Following a short but fierce fight, when all the bandits were defeated and bound, and Reagan, smeared with blood, knelt, Sarah approached her father to free him. In his eyes, she saw both pride and silent gratitude. "You were brave, my girl," he whispered, his hand gently resting on her head, stroking her hair. Together, they buried Billy's body, then left the bandits in the endless desert, tightly bound and stripped of their weapons. Reagan, kneeling in humiliation, begged for mercy, but Sarah, vividly remembering the unbearable pain he had inflicted, remained steadfast. They walked for a long time across the pitiless desert until, exhausted by thirst and fatigue, they stumbled upon an abandoned shack. There, within those crumbling walls, they found temporary shelter and began a new life. Sheriff Callum, a kind and compassionate man, bandaged their wounds, while Sarah learned to live with the newfound understanding of herself and the world around her. Much time passed. Years, one after another. Father and daughter, having endured all the trials, became inseparable. They built a new home, steeped in peace and quiet. Sarah had found the capacity to forgive, and Callum, in turn, had freed himself from the oppressive guilt of past events. One day, many years later, as the sun, drowning in sunset hues, painted crimson strokes across the sky, a group of riders approached their modest dwelling. These were men of the law, come seeking Reagan. The sheriff had been murdered, and a substantial reward was offered for Reagan's capture. Sarah knew she faced a difficult choice. She could betray Reagan, but then she'd have to return to the world of cruelty and deception, from which she had so desperately fled all these years. Or, she could let Reagan escape, live on, knowing that justice had not prevailed. For a long time, she stood on the threshold, gazing at the horizon, where the sky merged with the earth in a single, shimmering panorama. The wind tousled her hair, and the sun, having already dipped below the horizon, colored the prairie in crimson tones. The gathering twilight promised a long, dark night. Sarah understood, Reagan would haunt them for the rest of their lives. She knew that by giving him up, she would betray not only him but also herself. Her heart would remain wounded forever. But she had almost no choice. After much torment, she made a decision that offered a glimmer of hope. She resolved to keep living, no matter what. She hid Reagan, promising him freedom if he changed. To the men of the law who arrived, just a few minutes later, she calmly said she hadn't seen him. 6 men in gray cloaks, not believing her, lingered for a moment, scrutinizing her face, but finding nothing, they left the ranch. The silence that fell after they departed was deafening. Her father, watching everything unfold, realized with both sadness and relief that Sarah had done what she had to do. He knew she would never be the same again, but that evening, she had saved not only Reagan, but all of them. He approached her, embracing her in a hug. In the depths of his eyes, reflected as in a mirror, was not only pride, but also a sharp, stinging pain. They both understood that their familiar life, which had seemed so immutable, was left far behind in the past. Now, having gone through all of this, they knew only one thing: they had managed to survive. To survive together, hand in hand. And it was in this that their hope, their indomitable strength, lay. In the silence between them, in this deep, unconditional understanding, there were more words than could ever be spoken. This connection, unseen but palpable, was as strong as the sand that guarded the age-old secrets of the boundless desert.